The Awakening. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Confederation buzzed with the voices of representatives from over 300 advanced civilizations. The massive chamber, carved from a single asteroid and reinforced with quantum-stabilized materials, floated in the neutral space between the three major galactic arms. Above, the transparent dome revealed the breathtaking spiral of the Milky Way, billions of stars bearing silent witness to the proceedings below. High Arbiter Xolan of the Solari Concord, their translucent skin barely containing the swirling energy that comprised their evolved form, raised 6 appendages for silence. The chamber gradually fell quiet. The reports from the Orion Spur are concerning, Solon announced, their voice resonating through the translator fields. The buffer zone has been breached. A wave of murmurs swept through the assembly. The buffer zone, a region of space encompassing nearly 1,000 stars, had been established over 600 years ago. Few among the current representatives knew its true purpose. Most believed it was a natural phenomenon, a region of spatial distortion that made travel impossible. Ambassador Thrax of the Krell Dominion, his armored exoskeleton gleaming under the starlight, stepped forward. High Arbiter, many of us have served on the Council for decades, yet we have never been told the true nature of this buffer zone. If it has been breached, we deserve to know what we are facing. Solon's inner light pulsed with reluctance. The buffer zone was established to contain a species, one that our ancestor civilizations deemed too dangerous to allow into the galactic community. A quarantine, asked Minister Ilara of the Luminary Federation, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to express her shock. Such measures violate the most fundamental principles of our Confederation. The decision was made before the Confederation existed, replied Solon, when our ancestors were still consolidating their territories. The species in question displayed troubling characteristics. The central hologram flickered to life, displaying a bipedal creature with minimal physical defenses, no claws, minimal protective covering, and relatively weak musculature compared to many species present in the chamber. These are humans, Solon continued, physiologically unimpressive, but possessing a psychological profile that our ancestors found deeply concerning. They are adaptable beyond reason, capable of surviving in environments that would kill most sentient beings. But more importantly, they have a relationship with conflict that is unlike any other known species. The hologram shifted to display historical footage recovered from ancient human broadcasts. Primitive conflicts spanning centuries, weapons of increasing devastation, cities reduced to rubble, and always the humans rebuilding, advancing, emerging stronger from each catastrophe. They wage war against their own kind constantly, Solon explained. Their technological development is almost entirely driven by conflict. Our ancestors' predictive models showed that if they achieved interstellar travel, they would rapidly destabilize the existing galactic order. So they were imprisoned, stated Ambassador Thrax, his voice indicating neither approval nor condemnation. They were contained, corrected Solon, for their own development and the safety of all spacefaring civilizations. The buffer zone consists of thousands of spatial distortion generators that prevent detection of other civilizations and limit their exploration capabilities. Science Director Maver of the Centauri Union manipulated the controls, bringing up recent sensor readings. These energy signatures suggest the buffer zone has not merely been breached, it has been systematically dismantled from within. The humans have not only detected our technology, but have learned to counter it. The assembled representatives fell silent, contemplating the implications. A species that had spent centuries in isolation, believing themselves alone in the universe, now aware of the deception. We must reinforce the buffer immediately, declared Security Director Corvin of the Durrani hegemony, his metallic scales bristling with alarm, before they can mobilize beyond their containment region. Too late, said a new voice. Every head turned toward the entrance of the Grand Assembly Hall. 3 figures stood there, bipedal, their bodies encased in sleek armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Humans. The central figure stepped forward, removing the helmet to reveal a face with dark skin and piercing eyes. "I am Admiral Imani Okoro of the United Earth Defense Force. You're right to be afraid of us. But right now, you should be more afraid of what's coming." The security drones instantly surrounded the human delegation, weapon systems powering up. The humans made no move to defend themselves. "We will stand with humanity," Solon declared. "May the stars witness our covenant." As if in response, the lights throughout the chamber flickered, and the holographic displays momentarily distorted. When they stabilized, they showed a new reading. The massive object from beyond the galaxy had accelerated. It would arrive within 6 months. The war for survival had begun. The reckoning. The command deck of the UESS Nemesis hummed with activity as Admiral Okoro studied the tactical display. The ship, 3 kilometers of reinforced armor, advanced weapons systems, and the most powerful engines humanity had ever created, was now the coordination center for the combined fleet of the Human Confederation Alliance. "They're still not ready," murmured Commander Ryu Takahashi, Okoro's second-in-command, as he watched the Confederation vessels struggle through basic combat maneuvers. "They've known peace for too long," replied Okoro, her eyes never leaving the display. "Peace makes for poor warriors." "And us?" asked Takahashi quietly. "What has isolation made us?" Okoro turned to him, her expression grim. "Prepared." The bridge doors hissed open as Science Director Maver entered, accompanied by Minister Ilara. Despite being allies for 3 months, most Confederation species still showed subtle signs of discomfort in human presence. Ilara was one of the few exceptions, her bioluminescent patterns suggesting curiosity rather than fear. "The Harbinger relays have gone silent," announced Maver without preamble. All 17 simultaneously. Okoro's expression remained impassive, but her eyes hardened. "It's beginning, then." "The High Council requests your presence at the emergency session," said Ilara, her light patterns shifting to formal diplomatic configurations. "Arbiter Solon believes your perspective would be valuable." The subtle hesitation in her voice didn't escape Okoro's notice. Even after months of cooperation, the Confederation leadership remained uncomfortable with humanity's directness, their willingness to state unpleasant truths without diplomatic cushioning. "Commander Takahashi, you have the bridge," Okoro ordered. "Maintain alert status and continue drilling the fleet segments. I want response times cut by another 20%. "Ambitious," commented Ilara as they walked toward the shuttle bay. "Necessary," Okoro corrected. The Confederation vessels still lag significantly behind human response metrics. "Perhaps because we haven't spent centuries preparing for war," suggested Ilara, her bioluminescence expressing something like wry humor. Okoro's stride didn't falter. "No, you spent them believing war was a primitive concept you'd evolved beyond." Upon arrival at the Confederation station, Okoro found the council chamber in disarray. Representatives from dozens of species argued vehemently, their translators struggling to keep pace with the overlapping voices. Security Director Corvin, now a reluctant ally, stood beside High Arbiter Solon, both watching the chaos with evident concern. "We've lost contact with the Vidian colony," Corvin informed Okoro as she approached. 40,000 settlers, gone silent without any distress call. "The Vidian system is over 60 light-years from the nearest Harbinger relay," noted Okoro, studying the star chart. 73 light-years, corrected Maver, joining their group. The Centauri's usual skepticism toward humans had diminished considerably since Okoro's science team had upgraded the Confederation sensor arrays, revealing the approaching threat that Maver's own instruments had missed. "We've dispatched an investigative team, but they won't arrive for another 3 days." "Too slow," said Okoro flatly. "The Nemesis can be there in under 7 hours." Maver's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a Centauri expression of surprise. "That's impossible, even with your advanced drives." "We've been holding back certain capabilities," Okoro interrupted, her voice level. "Strategic considerations. The admission sent a visible ripple of tension through the nearby council members. Despite their alliance, trust remained fragile. "You still don't trust us," stated Solon, their multifaceted form pulsing with emotion. "Trust is earned, Arbiter," replied Okoro. "We've both taken steps in that direction, but survival comes first." Before further discussion could ensue, the chamber's emergency alert system activated. A harried communications officer rushed in, making directly for the High Arbiter. "Arbiter," the officer said, voice tight with controlled panic, "we're receiving a transmission. It's broadcasting on all frequencies, in all known languages, simultaneously." "Source?" demanded Corvin. "Unknown, Director. It appears to be coming from everywhere." "How did you breach our security?" demanded Corvin, his hand hovering over the emergency protocols. Admiral Okoro's expression remained neutral. "The same way we dismantled your buffer zone. We've been studying you for centuries. Your signals leak. Your ships occasionally pass close enough for observation. Did you really think your containment was perfect?" High Arbiter Solon gestured for the security drones to stand down. "What do you mean, what's coming?" The second human, a pale-skinned male with silver at his temples, activated a small device. A holographic image materialized in the center of the chamber, a vast, geometric structure floating in deep space, its surface covered in glowing runes that seemed to shift and change as they watched. "We call it a harbinger relay," the human explained. "We've detected 17 of them, at strategic points throughout the galaxy, all broadcasting signals into the void between galaxies. They're calling something here. What evidence do you have of this?" asked Science Director Maver skeptically. The third human, shorter with features suggesting mixed ancestry, adjusted the display. "The signals have been increasing in frequency and power. More concerning, something has been answering." The hologram shifted to show deep space readings, a massive object moving at incredible speed toward the Milky Way. "We detected this 11 months ago," continued the third human. "Current trajectory puts it arriving within 14 months. Its mass suggests an object approximately 1/5 the size of Earth's moon, but its structure is artificial. We believe it's a vanguard." The chamber erupted in chaotic discussion as representatives realized the implications. High Arbiter Solon raised their appendages again, gradually restoring order. "Assuming this threat is real," Solon said carefully, "why come to us? Why not remain safely isolated in your region of space?" Admiral Okoro's gaze was unwavering. "Because whatever's coming isn't just a threat to you. It's a threat to all sentient life in this galaxy, including humanity. We're offering an alliance." "An alliance?" repeated Security Director Corvin, his scales shifting color with suspicion. "With a species we quarantine because of their warlike nature." "Precisely because of our warlike nature," replied Admiral Okoro, meeting his gaze steadily. "You isolated us because you feared what we might become. Now you need exactly what we've become." The third human stepped forward, voice soft but carrying throughout the chamber. "You call yourselves a confederation of advanced civilizations. You've achieved remarkable things: art, science, philosophy. But there's one area where humanity has millennia of specialized experience." "And what might that be?" asked Ambassador Thrax, though his posture suggested he already knew the answer. Admiral Okoro's smile was cold and sharp as a blade. "War, Ambassador. When the darkness comes, you'll need monsters standing beside you. And humanity has learned to embrace the monster within." The silence that followed was heavy with realization. The species that had been contained for centuries out of fear might now be their only hope for survival. "We've brought our flagship and a small fleet as a gesture of good faith," continued Admiral Okoro. "But our full military force remains mobilized at the edge of what you call the buffer zone. We're prepared to assist, but we require full disclosure of your technologies, star charts, and defense capabilities." "That's unprecedented access," said Minister Ilara, her luminescence pulsing with concern. "So is the threat we're facing. countered Admiral Okoro. "We've spent centuries preparing for war against an unknown enemy. We didn't know it would be you. We didn't know it would be something else entirely. But we're ready." The central hologram activated again, this time showing a vast armada of human vessels positioned at the edge of the buffer zone. Their designs were unlike anything the Confederation had created. Angular, predatory, built for a single purpose. "Your ancestors were right to fear us," said Admiral Okoro softly. "But now, that fear is your greatest asset. The question is simple. Will you stand with humanity against the darkness, or will you stand alone?" High Arbiter Xolon looked around the chamber, seeing the mix of fear, calculation, and hope on the faces of the representatives. Then they extended their appendages toward the human delegation in the traditional gesture of alliance. The main display activated without command. Static filled the screen momentarily before resolving into an image that caused several council members to recoil instinctively. The beam defied easy classification. Its form seemed to shift between states, solid to liquid to gaseous, and back again, with a core of swirling darkness that hurt the eyes to focus upon. When it spoke, the voice resonated not just from the speakers, but seemed to vibrate from within the listeners themselves. "Sentients of the galaxy, hear our declaration. We are the Void Convergence. Your existence has been monitored through our Harbinger network. Your civilizations have been judged and found wanting." Okoro noticed that while most of the Confederation representatives appeared shocked or terrified, Security Director Corvin had immediately begun coordinating with his security teams, preparing defensive measures. Perhaps the reptilian had more in common with humanity than either would care to admit. "Resistance is unnecessary and will only increase suffering," continued the entity. "Submit to dissolution and absorption. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be preserved within the convergence. This is the only path to continuation." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Okoro was already at the communications terminal, contacting the Nemesis. "Takahashi, full alert. Prepare the fleet for immediate combat deployment. I want the Vidian system secured before." The station shuddered violently, alarms blaring throughout the structure. Corvin's security console flashed with emergency notifications. "Multiple unknown vessels have entered the system," he reported, his voice steady despite the crisis. "They've bypassed our outer defensive grid without triggering any alarms." "Show me," demanded Okoro. The tactical display activated, showing a swarm of bizarre vessels surrounding the station. They resembled no known design, organic and mechanical elements blending seamlessly. Each ship pulsed with the same dark energy that had formed the core of the being in the transmission. "Evacuation protocols," ordered Solon, their form rippling with urgency. "Get everyone to the escape vessels." "No time," said Okoro, studying the tactical display. "They're surrounding us. We need to fight." She turned to Corvin. "Your security teams, are they combat trained?" "Basic defense protocols only," admitted Corvin. "We haven't fought a real battle in generations." Okoro activated her neural link to the Nemesis. "Takahashi, Emergency Protocol Omega. Authorization Okoro Alpha 7 Tango." "Acknowledged," came Takahashi's immediate response. "Stealth units deploying. ETA 90 seconds. Corvin looked at Okoro with new understanding. "You had ships standing by." "We always have ships standing by," replied Okoro, her expression grim. "Humanity learned long ago never to enter negotiations without leverage." The station shuddered again as the enemy vessels began to close in. The closest alien ship extended appendages that resembled mechanical tentacles, making contact with the station's hull. Where they touched, the material began to disintegrate and transform, becoming similar to the alien vessel's own structure. "They're assimilating our technology," gasped Maver, watching the process with scientific horror and fascination. "And they'll assimilate us if we don't move," snapped Okoro. She turned to the assembled representatives. "Everyone to the central hub. Now." As they rushed through the corridors, Okoro maintained contact with Takahashi. The station's systems were beginning to fail, life support fluctuating as the alien presence spread through its infrastructure. Emergency bulkheads slammed down, isolating contaminated sections. The void convergence appears to be a composite entity, reported Maver as they ran, analyzing data on a portable device. A collective consciousness utilizing both organic and mechanical components. They're adapting to our defenses as they encounter them. Can they be killed? Asked Corvin bluntly. Everything can be killed, said Okoro with cold certainty. The question is how. They'd reached the central hub just as the lights failed completely, emergency systems bathing everything in blood-red illumination. Through the viewports, they could see the enemy vessels surrounding the station, pulsing with dark energy. Admiral, Ilara said quietly, her bioluminescence dimmed with fear. If we don't survive this, I want you to know that many of us have come to respect humanity, despite our differences. Okoro nodded acknowledgement, her attention focused on her neural link. Takahashi reports the stealth units are in position. Brace yourselves. Without warning, 6 human vessels materialize around the station, their stealth systems deactivating to reveal sleek, predatory designs. Unlike the main fleet ships, these were smaller, built for speed and surgical precision. They immediately opened fire on the alien vessels, their weapons tearing through the strange hybrid materials. The enemy ships reacted with surprising speed, abandoning their assault on the station to engage the human vessels. Their forms shifted, adapting to the attacks, but the human ships kept changing tactics, never using the same weapon configuration twice. Your vessels are outmatched, observed Solon, watching the battle unfold. The enemy has superior numbers. We're not trying to win, explained Okoro. We're creating a diversion. On cue, a section of the station's hull blew outward, the controlled explosion creating an escape route that hadn't been compromised by the alien presence. A human shuttle burst through the opening, heading straight for them. Our ride, said Okoro simply. As they boarded the shuttle, Okoro took direct control, her neural implants interfacing with the craft's systems. The shuttle accelerated away from the station, weaving through the ongoing battle with precision that no manual pilot could have achieved. The Nemesis is on approach, she informed them. We'll rendezvous in the outer system, away from the conflict zone. And the station? Asked Ilara. There are still thousands of people aboard. Okoro's expression was somber. Commander Takahashi has deployed extraction teams to critical sections. We'll save who we can. Through the shuttle's viewports, they watched as the station's structure continued to change, sections of it taking on the same disturbing appearance as the alien vessels. The human stealth ships maintained their harassing attacks, drawing enemy attention while evacuation proceeded. You planned for this, accused Maver, studying Okoro with new understanding. From the moment you entered our space, we planned for everything, replied Okoro without apology. It's how we've survived. The shuttle docked with the Nemesis 30 minutes later. The massive human flagship dwarfed even the largest Confederation vessels, its design an intimidating blend of functionality and power. Inside, the command deck was a model of efficiency, human officers moving with practiced precision. Takahashi greeted them, his expression grave. We extracted approximately 60% of the station's personnel. The rest. He left the implication hanging. Status of the stealth units? Asked Okoro, taking her position at the command station. 4 remaining operational. They'll withdraw once the last evacuation shuttles are clear. Okoro nodded, then addressed the Confederation representatives. You've seen what we're facing. The void convergence isn't here to negotiate or conquer. They're here to consume, to absorb our distinctiveness into their own. How do we fight such an enemy? Asked Corvin, his scales dull with the weight of what they'd witnessed. Together, said Okoro simply. Your science, our warfare. Your numbers, our strategy. She activated the main tactical display, showing the combined fleets still drilling in formation. Everything changes today. No more exercises. No more holding back capabilities on either side. Solon stepped forward, their form rippling with determination. What is your plan, Admiral? First, we analyze. The enemy showed vulnerabilities during the attack. Their adaptability is impressive, but not instantaneous. They need time to process new threats before countering them. Okoro looked at each of the representatives in turn. Second, we prepare. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology we have must be weaponized against them. And third, asked Ilara quietly. We take the fight to them, said Okoro, her voice hard as steel. The Vidian system was their first target in Confederation space. We start there, learn what they did, and then we hunt them across the galaxy if necessary. For the first time, there was no hesitation or suspicion in the representatives' responses, only grim determination. The threat they faced had made all previous differences seem insignificant. Before we proceed, said Maver, I need to understand something. You said humanity has been planning for war for centuries, yet you couldn't have known about the void convergence. Okoro's smile was thin. We didn't know who the enemy would be. We only knew that in a universe this vast, we wouldn't be alone forever, and history taught us that first contact rarely favors the unprepared. A philosophy we should have considered, admitted Solon. The Nemesis shuddered slightly as it accelerated away from the battle zone, the last of the stealth units docking in its massive hangars. On the tactical display, they watched as the compromised station was completely enveloped by the alien vessels, its structure fully absorbed into their collective. I propose a unified command structure, said Corvin, surprising everyone. Your military expertise coordinating with our knowledge of the galaxy. Agreed, said Okoro without hesitation. And full technological exchange. No more secrets between allies. As they formalized their new alliance, the tactical sensors registered a disturbing development. The mass of alien vessels that had consumed the station was changing, growing, using the absorbed materials to create more of their kind. They're reproducing, observed Maver with scientific detachment, using our own technology against us. Then we need to hit them hard before they can build their numbers, said Okoro. She turned to Takahashi. Set course for the Vidian system, maximum speed. Alert all fleet elements to converge there. The journey will take at least 3 days for our vessels, said Ilara, concerned. Okoro exchanged a glance with Takahashi. The Nemesis will be there in 7 hours. Your fastest ships can follow as they're able. How is that possible? Demanded Maver. Wormhole drive, replied Okoro simply. One of the capabilities we've been holding back. The convergence wants to consume what makes us distinctive. Let's show them exactly what that means. As the Nemesis's engines powered up to full capacity, the viewports showed a brief glimpse of the devastation behind them. The consumed station now a writhing mass of alien technology. Then space itself seemed to fold around the ship, and they were gone, racing toward humanity's first true interstellar war. In the darkness of deep space, the void convergence continued its inexorable advance. But for the first time in its long existence, it encountered something unexpected. A species that didn't flee, didn't negotiate, didn't surrender. A species that fought back. Humanity had been preparing for this moment since the first time one human tribe had faced another across a battlefield. Now, the monsters that mankind had become would face the darkness that threatened all life, and neither would ever be the same again.